understand the Saab 9.4X SUV, it helps to understand Saab's recent corporate history. General Motors used to own Saab, but after GM's bankruptcy, GM cut down their number of brands and sold off Saab. But before that, GM developed some new models for Saab, including the 9.4X SUV. As it is, it shares an awful lot with the Cadillac SRX. We were able to take a first look at the Saab, so here's our first impressions. Most versions of the 9.4X will come with a 265 horsepower 3-liter V6. When we tried that engine in the Cadillac, we found that it really worked hard to move around the heavy SUV. It just wasn't that enjoyable. The version we have here is the 9.4X Aero. It has a 2.8-liter turbocharged V6. Now, it claims 300 horsepower, but when you drive it, it doesn't quite feel like it. The Saab drives pretty well, but it's not quite as nimble or as agile as some of the better compact upscale SUV competition, like the BMW X3 or the Audi Q5. The interior is pretty nicely finished. There's some traditional Saab design cues here, like the little joystick vent toggles, a night panel mode that blacks out unneeded instruments, and the frustrating console-mounted ignition button. Still, this interior feels an awful lot like a modern General Motors interior. It's not a bad thing at all, but it's not really distinctive either. There are some annoyances here. The shiny band of trim on the Aero model, well, it reflects back into the windshield. And the rear roof pillar, it's really thick, so when you're backing up, you get a blind spot in the corner. Since General Motors sold Saab, the Swedish automaker's been struggling financially. It remains to be seen whether the 9.4X will stand out in a crowded market segment.
This Saab 9.5 replaces a model that was on sale unchanged for about a dozen years. That's an extremely long time in the modern competitive automotive world. Was this new 9.5 worth the wait? The 9.5 was developed when General Motors owned Saab, and it shares its platform with the Buick LaCrosse and Regal sedans. Like those Buicks, the Saab rides well. It's fairly nimble, and steering's responsive with decent feedback. Unfortunately, steering effort is a bit high at parking lot speeds. However, the ride is less agreeable. The Saab rides stiffly and transmits bumps as hard hits. The ride motions are quick and abrupt, and overall, the ride quality isn't what's expected in a $46,000 sedan. Noise levels don't measure up as well. Tire and wind noise levels are elevated for a vehicle in this price class. What also seems out of place in this price class is our Saab's turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. It sounds wheezy. And while its performance is decent, it doesn't match that of most V6 engines. There isn't even any mileage advantage. Quite a few V6 sedans can match the Saab's fuel economy, and they're faster. You can get a V6 engine in the Saab, but only with all-wheel drive. It's hard to see out of the Saab. The wraparound front windshield is small, and the roof pillars are thick. Plus, the upward-sweeping belt line shrinks the size of the windows. And despite having the optional navigation system in our car, there's no backup camera. That's insulting at this price point. At least the interior measures up to the price. The dash and touch points are nicely padded, there's detailed stitching, and there's numerous panels of wood trim. You also get some of the traditional Saab interior features. Some of these are endearing enough, like the joystick vent controls or the night panel setting, which shuts off unneeded dashboard lights at night. Some of the other quirks are more annoying. For example, Saab has the ignition button on the center console, which would be okay, except that they place the night panel control on the dashboard, right where other car companies place the ignition button. That led to some of us trying to turn the car off by pressing the night panel switch. There are other problems with the controls as well. The radio and climate controls are a jumbled mess of small, low-mounted buttons and knobs, and the power lock button is way up here hidden on the dash. On the plus side, the large and firm front seats are well padded. Cushion support holds up well on long trips, but shorter drivers said that the lower cushion was a bit too long for comfort. Rear seat access is made difficult by the narrow door opening and the tall sill. There's room enough for 3 adults in the rear, but it's not that comfortable. Thigh support's lacking, and there's not that much toe room. On the plus side, At least the Saab has a large trunk. And unlike many other luxury sedans, you can fold the rear seat for more cargo space. We weren't really that impressed with the Saab 9.5. Not only does it not measure up to the competition, but it's expensive as well. And the Buicks that share its platform are both nicer and cheaper. In the end, the 9.5 isn't enough to save Saab's sagging fortunes in the United States.